Today we're creating a fighting pit arena battle map, but styled as a tavern. This map is actually specifically designed for our monastic brewery's beverage carrying sport beer mug lug and chug. This game has its own unique combat rules, which we discussed in a previous video, but I'll bring the relevant points up in this video whenever necessary. As this isn't a tavern and is rather a fighting pit, we needed to begin by placing some walls which observers could look down from. We got some good old-fashioned castle walls, placed cobblestone texture underneath, and had a solid surrounding walkway, one I wanted to fill with preferably people or at least empty bleacher-esque things. Unfortunately, neither of these would really be possible to do, and in turn these would just be empty and not look very good, something I realize and deal with much later. For now though, the walling of our pit arena would need what all pit arenas have, two large metal gates opposing each other at each end, denoting where the antagonizing competitors enter from. With the exterior in place, it was time to start with the interior design. Fill this out a bit, and I think we're going to use like quite a few broken tables and things like that. Elven, I mean, if this is going to be like monastic or farmstead, yeah, broken wine barrels for sure. Ooh, I kind of like these. We can do a mix. But yeah, I might veer away from regular tavern situation, and I might try to do a little bit of a fancier situation. So I think, yeah, let's go with these shamrock tables and things. I think that's kind of cool. Something I'd very much keep in mind as I placed all the items is that because this is a game, we want the map to have a solid level of symmetry for balance purposes. However, having the map be entirely symmetrical can be a little boring and in certain ways feels inauthentic. So when placing items, we'd purposefully put them down in a way that they weren't just the exact same on either side, but there was still a consistency and evenness about what existed on each side. With this in mind, we'd also make another significant design choice. We'd move away from constructing this map to be specifically created to facilitate the game, and would design it to look more like a general tavern. Maybe, am I like just thinking about this kind of incorrectly? Like, should this be more specifically a planned tavern? Yeah, I think that's maybe what we'll do a little bit more. I think I was planning it a bit ramshackly, but let's actually, shamrockly, I should say. Ha ha ha, everyone laughed. But let's actually plan it a bit more like it's a tavern. And it can be, you know, not fully a tavern, but have all the accoutrements of a tavern. So by that I mean we'll have this tavern section, and I think on the opposite side we can have like a stage, like a little performance area. Like that could be a fun thing to do. This aesthetic change made it a lot easier to think of what sort of decorations we'd have in our fight pit, something I often find very hard to decorate for. The other aspect we'd lean on for guidance would be adding stamps that facilitate or aid the mechanics of our game. The two pillars of what does a tavern have and what does our game need would guide us greatly, and you can see this when we place the wine barrels, the stage, or the behind the bar area filled with mugs and plates. With a huge portion of the tavern furnishing in place, we now needed to go back to beer mug lug and chug and figure out what specific elements were needed for this. I'd somewhat foolishly placed magic circles which would act as the de facto goals where the party need to place collected magical orbs in, but as you probably feel as well, this was way off theme. Chat would remind me this is a tavern, so why not have the party required to fill 5 mugs of beer at a tap located in the center of the room? A much better suggestion than what I was doing. So we'd get rid of the 2 rows of 4 taps, which, side note, are actually lever stamps, but I think they actually look really good as beer taps, so these are staples in all my tavern maps. To ensure the mechanics of the game were visualized in the maps, we'd evenly scatter mug stamps around so players can pick them up. Then we'd similarly restyle the magic circles to fit the theme of tavern. There's mugs spread around the map, so there's like some here on these tables. Yeah, I think like also having them spread around the map, you know, they can go pick them up or whatever. Sounds good. Yeah, I think the idea of like having them fill the tap was much better than orbs. Orbs? What am I saying? Am I a Looney Tune? And also let's get these special magical things off the map. They don't relate to it at all. Let's get a barrel. Obviously it's a barrel. What am I doing? I'm crazy. Yeah, barrel. Empty barrel. Here we go. Perfecto. Wait, they're not gonna put drinks in a barrel. That doesn't make any sense. They can put them on a barrel. That makes more sense. Yeah, they need to put their 3 drinks on the respective barrels. There we go. We're refining it down to be more monastic brewery associated. The next element we needed to visualize was weapons. Ooh, what's a bunch of random stuff we could put on the map that could be use as improvised weapons.
One of the major elements of this map is that the only weapons available to use are ones the party must pick up off the map, which means placing a bunch of fun tavern-themed items. These include all the classics, bottles, plates, mugs, but also a burning hot fire poker, the moose head off the walls, a loot, etc. All of which would get their own offensive and defensive stats, which we'd write out in a simple table. The reason they'd all be fairly chill items and not actual weapons, the scalding fire poker withstanding, is because in beer mug lug and chug, dealing damage is less about hurting the other team and more about preventing them from transporting mugs of beer. So we wanted the ad hoc weapons to represent that while also staying in theme. With the map basically done, I'd zoom out properly for really the first time and truly notice how much space our walkway frame was taking up.
I guess just like my kind of question is, how can we like make this stuff more interesting up here? Because it's like, I just think it's a little bit boring. And I think it kind of like was a good idea, but in hindsight is maybe like a much less good idea. Maybe not like a much less good idea, it's just like, I don't think it's as anywhere near as engaging as it could have been. So what we maybe do, this might take a little bit of time, might be a bit tedious, but I'm actually gonna extend it out so it's like barely on the map at all. Intimation that this stuff exists, but as far as the actual like how far on the map it is, it's much, much less. And already, even having just done a little bit, I think this is gonna make it look a lot better. And I'm happy with the decision, even if it takes a little bit of time to sort of go through the whole shebang-a-bang.
We'd follow up this by resizing a few things, moving everything around, and fixing the flooring, before we'd get to the actual final aspect of this map, the grid. We spent a little bit of time choosing the perfect ratio to make the game work, but in no time at all, we were actually done. I really like this map for two reasons. The first is because I think we did a great job of creating a map for our beer sport and its unique combat encounter rules, but also because fight pit arenas are usually just walls, dirt floors, and maybe a few items. Meanwhile, ours has a cool tavern styling, lots of cover, different pockets for engagement, even some elevated ground, overall making this pit map much more dynamic. So even if you aren't playing beer, mug, lug and chug, this should still make for a great pit arena encounter, which is awesome. It works great on these two fronts. And that's the video. Check out the other video on the special combat encounter that this map was made for, or watch some of my other map making or quest creation videos. All my maps and quests are available on the Patreon, and thanks everyone who has already signed up there. It really means a lot to me. Thanks everyone else for watching, and as always, I will see you in the next one. Bye!